Hey guys, welcome back to this series of tutorials where we are building a food delivery app with React Native and Firebase. I just want to say something. If it's your first time to watch these videos, I would recommend you to watch the whole playlist, the previous videos as well, so that you can be on the same page with everyone else. Without wasting any time, we're going to continue from where we stopped last time. We have been building the search features for our app. We want to be able to search restaurants as well as different types of food in our application. So this is what we've built so far. We did build this text input as well as the search bar, and we will continue from where we left last time. So the final thing, the target is this. We want to have this exactly as it looks, that when you press there you have your search suggestions and all that, and you're able to search and pick a food or restaurant, and then you get the search results and suggestions. So far we don't have the animations. As you can see, if I blur, you have animation. If I also focus, you have these two icons animating. We're going to achieve that in this application, as well as we're going to also implement the filtering into our search so that we get the relevant result when we searching, or relevant suggestions. And we're also going to implement all these categories. Instead of searching, someone can quickly pick from the top suggestion or food or most popular suggestions and all that. Without wasting any time, go to your project and go to the source folder and then component folder and open your search component.js file. I have mine open already, and we're going first to animate these icons. But before that, I want to do something. I did put this method here, but I did not import the keyboard. So just make sure you go to React Native, import up on top there. Let me make the screen bigger. Here, import keyboard as well. If you have the keyboard imported like that, then you can scroll back down to the first animatable view. We're first going to animate this icon, which is the search icon and arrow icon. This is the first icon, which you see in here, this search icon. We're gonna begin animating that. It's very simple, it's very straightforward. What you do, just add animation prop to this component. You just say animation. Oh, there's a mistake here. It is supposed to be with you. Alright, so animation, and I'm going to animate it with some conditions. The condition is that if the text input is forecast, if this is true, then I'm going to fade in right. Otherwise, if it false, I'm going to fade in left. There is also another prop that we need to add, the duration of your animation. Your animation has a start time and ending time, so you have to determine how long should your animation be. So the duration, I'm just going to put, let's say, 400. This is 400 milliseconds, of course. And here I did put false previously. I want to keep it to true. Just change that when you press, when you go back, if it's going back, we should keep this into the true state, so that next time when the user want to search, they will find the text input forecast already, as you can see. And apart from that, let me see what's the initial state of text forecast. Is true. Okay, that's fine. What else are we gonna do? We need to add some event listeners, because so far we're not listening from anything into the text input. For example, if I blur or click there, I'm not able to, my app won't know exactly what's happening with the text input. So we're going to add some event listeners. The first one is on focus. When the text input is focused, I want to keep this to update my state into the app as well. So I'm going to say, when this is focused, set the text input forecast to true. Also, I'm going to listen to the other event is called on blur. So for example, right now I've blurred the text input, so I should be able to record that in my app, and I will record that by changing the state as well of the text input forecast. I'm going to say set text input forecast to false if this is true, if the text input has been blurred. And I'm going to save. Let's see what happens. I'm going to close this for now. I just want to refresh the app. Alright, if I click there, still don't have any animation. We're going to see why are we not having any animation yet. See the problem, I did type a mistake here. This is supposed to be animation. I wrote with an error, so I should remove this A, animation. Let me save. Okay, I can see now it is animating. So you can see this left icon is animating already. Let me just close this up again to refresh it, so the animation can work properly. Awesome. You can see these icons are animating. There's a bit of delays because it's an emulator. The computer is overloaded, so but otherwise you can see that the icon on the left is indeed animating, and that should be perfect on your phone as well. Now we're going to animate the cancel icon, which is the icon at the right as well. So we don't have to waste time. I'm just gonna copy this and paste it in the second animatable view, which is this view here. Going to paste it here, and what we're going to say here is that if the text input is focused, we're going to fade in left instead of right, and here we're going to leave it empty. We don't have to do anything. And I'm going to save again, and let's see. You can see that it has animated. And if I blur, and then we have that. If I focused, we have all the icons animating perfectly. So this is awesome. We have done that. Now the next thing that we're going to do, we need to implement the filtering of text. Right now, if I tap whatever I'm tapping, they're not giving us the right suggestions. So we're going to implement that. We're going to create some small functions. Just follow what I'm doing. If you don't understand, you're gonna get it by the time we finish this video. So I'm going to create a function on top here. We're going to call it, you can call it anything. I'm just going to call it contain or contents, and this function will take two parameters, and the first one I will destructure it already, call it name, and it's also going to take a parameter which is called query, and so what I'm going to say is if name, which is the parameter we're destructuring here, if name, going to call the include method, include any letter from query. Query is the data which we'll be typing here. Sorry, inside the text input, the data that we'll be typing inside the text input, that data will be captured here as query. That's what I'm putting as query. And then we say if name includes the data that we're trying to type, then we'll return true. We say yes, this word exists, or that says search input or the requested data exists. Otherwise, if it doesn't exist, we're just gonna return false. So this is the small function. I'm sure you understand it. And I'm going to create another function, and then that's the function that will handle the text input, because this is handling the search. Now we need another one to handle the text input. So here I'm going to say const handle search, and this will take a text parameter, and I'm going to create a constant. I'm just gonna call it data s, or the search data. Then we're going to apply a filter method, and then we say gonna return some element. Gonna say filter data or filter data, and this will return the data if it's true or not. And then what we will say is we're gonna have this callback to say return the data or the data by calling the filtering method which we've created here. So I'm I'm going to say return, then we call this function contains, which we have just created on top. We pass the first parameter, which is the user, and okay, this user here, I just want to explain. This filter, this is an array. This filter will be returning an array with elements, and each element will be passed through this callback function, and the element of this array are an object, and this is the data which we have inside our global data file. So this is the actual data. So this is the array, and this is the element which I'm calling user, because it's the user who trying to find food. Maybe they put seafood or whatever, then this will be passed to this callback function. And what we're saying is that we take this user, we try to filter now the user data, or the user search. For example, the search name and all that. So, and we take the user search, because we're destructuring this user here with name. So we're taking the name from this object. I hope it makes sense. And then also we pass a second parameter to this function. We're going to call it text. So this text is the search data which we're inputting from the text input. For example, if I type, for example, beggar, the text input will capture this data and pass it to this function, and we pass it to the contains function. I hope that makes sense. We're passing it here, and then when we're passing this data here, which we type in the text input, and the second or the first parameter, then we pass the object, this object here. So we're passing it one at once, and sorry for that. And then this function will execute and return true. Here this can return a true or a false. So if it's true, then the object will be passed into this array. This will be an array. And if it's false, then that data will be filtered out. And the filter data, as I said, filter data is this data here, because you can see we're importing this filter data from global slash data file. We're importing this here, which is the data here. We import that, then we pass it to this filter data. All right, then it will give it will pass the element of each of this. It will try to examine the element of each of this array filter data, and that element is represented by user. You could put any name. Okay, I could put suggestion or whatever. Let me maybe put a name that makes sense. Let me put user search, for example, just for you to get it properly. User search, and pass there also user search. Alright, so you have your user search, which can be any of these items, and if there's nothing, then this array will be empty. If there's something, and then this will return true, that means that data will be passed again to this array. And let's now save. Then scroll to your text input. Going to scroll to, okay, before that we need to set some data. Is going to say after that we should set data, then we're going to spread this array of data search, which is data S. Then you can scroll to your text input. We're going now to listen to the onChange text event. Going to pass an event onChange text. Sorry, this change is capital letter onChange text. OnChange text. Then we're going to call the handle search, and that should be it for this thing to work, guys. I'm going to save it, and saying const keyword, there's a mistake somewhere. Let me see, where did I go wrong? Sorry guys, I forgot to put the arrow here. This is not a function. I made a mistake there. So let's save and see if that solved the problem. Awesome. Okay, there's one thing that we need to do, because so far it doesn't acknowledge this filter method. We need to install a library. We need to install a library. It's called the library that we're going to install, it's called Lodash. I think it's a very popular library. And going to open your terminal. You can type npm install Lodash, and this will begin installing a library. This gives us a lot of JavaScript method to handle a lot of common tasks. Once this is installed, you can see it's successfully installed. I'm going to relaunch my emulator, but before that I'm going to import the filter method, and I'm going to import this method. I'm going to say import filter from Lodash. Then we just import what we need. Alright, I'm going to save this, and I'm going to relaunch my emulator. So we're doing npx react native run Android. So while my emulator is launching, I want us to continue so that we don't waste a lot of time. The next thing that we're going to do, we're going to implement these pictures. We're going to implement these categories. So in order to do this, it's very simple. This is very simple, guys. So just go to your screen, to the search screen.js file. Open the search screen.js file, then open another view. And once you have opened this view, we're going to populate the code in order to, okay, I see my emulator is building now. Going to see what happens. But in the meanwhile, while the emulator is building, I want you to import first of all a flat list, because we're going to make use of flat list in order to display these pictures here. So import flat list from React Native. And once the flat list is imported, why am I having this one? Okay, before we move on, let's see if what you've implemented so far is working. We've implemented the filter. Okay, we have that. And if I tap first, awesome. Apparently it's working. And if I clear that, or clear it's not working yet, we're going to do that as well now. And let me go back. Okay, there's still some, it's not working perfectly, because now the last search is left in there. It doesn't get erased as supposed to. For example, if I tap beggar, it's giving me the suggestion for beggar. If I, for example, just put food, it gives me suggestion for everything that has to do with food. And if, for example, I put what else? Just put A. It will give me all the way that have got A inside of them. You can see C has got A, Mexican has got A, and this one A, and that as well A. And for example, if I put D after A, then we only have this suggestion. You see, so I could say the filtering is working perfect, but so far this is not working when I click on cancel. So it's supposed to cancel. Oh, apparently it's working. It's supposed to cancel. It is cancelling, but just that it's not refreshing the search, which is still fine, because you're cancelling to put a new search. That means all the suggestions that were given are not matching your criteria or what you want, which is okay. I think everything is working perfect. And if you cancel that, then you can tap your own type of food. For example, if I put, let's say, Mexican, you have Mexican, which is coming up. So everything is working perfectly. And now let's implement the what? These suggestions, this layout, which is very important. It's a bit tricky because you have two categories, we have two layouts, and we have all of them in a scroll view. So you have to handle this with a lot of caution, but it's simple. The first thing that we're going to do, we've imported flat list. We are in the search screen.js file. We've imported flat list, and now we're going to use it here. I'm going to say flat list. We close the tag. Sorry, I'm just making some mistake. Awesome. And now we're going to pass some style to this flat list. Just gonna give it margin bottom. Of 10, so that we have some space at the bottom of the flat list. As you can see, when I scroll at the bottom, you have this margin. And finally, we're going to pass the data which we want to render in this flat list, and this will be the filter data. So we need to import this filter data. I don't think it's imported yet. Go up here, import filter data. This is from this will be from global. it should be from global and then from data. All right. And finally, not finally, we're going to now we need first to extract the keys. So key extractor, going to say item.id. I assume you understand what I'm doing. This is basic React or React Native. And then let's render what we want on the screen. And here we're going to say item. This must be destructured. Going to destructure item and then we will now be able to render the data. Going to render now these views, and you can see all these views are touchable. For example, if I click on fast food, it's taking me to the search result and all that. So we're going to use touchable opacity to have the on press event. So first of all, import touchable. We're going to use touchable without feedback instead. Touchable without feedback. Then we're gonna use that here. And we're also going to open another view. My computer is just messing me up today because all my snippets, nothing is working, but okay. Also going to import another component from React Native. We call it image background. Image background. Then inside this image background, we're going to pass some styles. Styles. But image. Let's see if we have the styles yet. We don't have the styles yet. We're going to create them now. And the source, it will be equal to Second thing that we're going to do is first of all, the data that we're going to render here, I think I just have to change something. Instead of URI, we're going just to pass item.image. It's not going to be an object because you're requiring this here. It's a local data, as you can see, and so we're going to pass the styles. I'm going to paste the styles so that we don't waste time creating all these styles. I'm simply going to paste some styles that are more relevant. I think that will speed up how we code, because if you have to type each single star, this will take forever. This video will be too long and boring. So I'm copying. You can pause your video and paste or type, what I'm pasting now. These are the stars. You have a star sheet that I've created there, and you have some few stars that are there. You can pause and type, and we have to import star sheet, which is imported already here on top. Alright, now we have our stars. It makes our lives much easier. And we have the image, which is a background image. Now we have to put this text, and in order to create this text inside or in the middle of the picture, I'm going to open a view inside this component called view. And inside this view, I'm just going to paste a text component. I don't have to type it, so we don't have to waste time. Don't want to waste your time and mine. So I've pasted this text component. It's just a text component, and the style I'm passing this color, which is colors background, which is the global stars, as well as then the text which will be displayed. Like all these things are the names which we're getting from the item object. I think that should be it. And now let's pass some props for our flight list. We're going to say horizontal, going to say force, and shows sorry, I think I'm putting this in there. Let me see if I'm in the right place. Alright, going to say shows vertical scroll indicator, then we say force, and number of columns, because you have two columns. We have that prop with flight list, so we can tell how many columns you want to render the item in. I'm going to say 2. let's try to save and see what happens before proceed. Okay, it's giving us don't have global. I think the import is not right. I did write global with a mistake, not global. It's supposed to be global. And data, let's save and see. We're saying screen width. Okay, I've used that, but I didn't create it. So I'm just going to paste it. We don't have to type all that. On top here, you can import this, tap this line of code, and we need to import dimensions component from React Native. Also, we need to import the colors. Instead of tapping, let me simply copy and paste so we don't have to waste a lot of time. Import also the colors, and the colors are imported from, it's supposed to be global, not component, because the colors are in global then styles. So this will be global and from styles. Sorry, I'm copying this from a different project which is a bit different. Global styles, and I think that should be it. Once you have all this import right, I think your project should work. Let me save and see. We're still getting some errors. Okay guys, I see what the problem is. I'm importing a wrong thing. It's not supposed to be background, it's supposed to be background image. So there was a mistake here. I also need to change that down here. And also I've been put this outside the component. Sorry for that guys, just having a lot of things going on. So this should be fine. What else? Let's try to save this and see if it solved the problem. Alright, the problem is solved, but these are not the right pictures. This is not what I want. Let's go to the data.js file, global. I'm going to create some different datas. I'm going to paste some datas which I want to have displayed here. So you can simply pause the video and paste what I'm going to paste here. Okay. So this is the data. Let me make it big for you to type. Also, I'm going to put this file on GitHub. You can find the repo on GitHub as well. And I'm going to call it filter data, let's say 2, because there's one already there. I don't want to change that for now. Filter data 2. Sorry for that. Then we're going to import filter data 2 instead of just filter data, and then we're going to also pass that to our array of data. And let's save and see. Before that, let me just now view the emulator. having an error. Let me just close this and reopen. Sometimes having error. Let me see. Okay, inside the background, inside this component, the source, you now have to pass a URI. That's why it's complaining. We're having that error because of this. Make sure you now put URI in here because we're importing this from a link. Okay, we're getting the pictures now, and it's not exactly what we want yet. As you can see, this is what we want to achieve, but we need to change some styles. And before that, let me first you need first to put a title. Right, you need to put a title, and that I'm going to put it into a list header, component. That is a prop that can be taken from the flat list. So we're going to say list header component, and inside this we're going to pass a text component, and just going to say top categories, and I'm going to pass some styles as well. Style, styles dot list header, and that should be fine for now. Now I need also to adjust some style for this image background. Going to pass some styles at this view as well, just the view on top of the image background component. Sorry for that. And inside this style, I'm going to pass the image style so that we have some space around each image. I'm going to say styles dot image, and apart from that, let's first save this and see what happened. Okay, we have now the top categories there, but still we don't have the margin around the images. Okay, let's see. Why are we not getting instead of the image style, it is supposed to be image view. Yes, change the style on this view, the view above the image background, to style view so that we get the margin. Awesome. So now we need to get this text aligned inside the center, and this text is this one here. This is that text component, so we need to pass styles to this view. Pass styles, and we have created already the styles for it as well. Styles dot text view. So you can see all these styles are inside our style sheet. Like the one I'm using right now is this text view. I've created it already, and the list header style is there, the image style, and so forth, and the image view style is also there. I've just copied and pasted all those styles so that we save time. So I'm going to save. This is the style that we have added to this view. I'm going to save. Awesome. Now we have exactly what we want. This is what we want, but if I scroll, you can see that we have more categories at the bottom. In our case, we still don't have anything at the bottom. You can see I can scroll, but we don't have more categories at the bottom. So we need to adjust that, but at least the search is working. I can search, for example, let's say seafood, and that is working. And you can, let's say, search for, let's say, any food, and you can see they're giving more suggestion. If I search for hot dog, and we can see that is also being picked up, and so forth. So most of the things are working, and the next thing that we need to do now is to create the last thing, is to create more categories at the bottom. And to achieve this, we need to create what we call list footer component. This I'm going to put it in list footer. So let's say list footer component, and this will take a React component or React Native component. So I'm going to call this component footer. Now we need to create this component here. We need to create this component footer. So I want you to go out of this function just above your style sheet function or object. You're going to create a component called footer. So we're going to say const footer. This will then render the footer. So inside here you can see this is exactly the same. This is exactly the same, so we can just copy all this code, copy that, and paste inside the footer. And but here going to remove this one, delete that, and on the list header we're going to put more categories instead of top categories. So just put more categories, and we're also then going to give a margin to this view. Gonna say styles margin bottom, can give it, let's say, 20. Let's go back to our app. You can see so far there's nothing. Now I'm going to save. So far you scroll down, there's nothing. Going to save. Let's see what happens. Okay, awesome. Now you have more categories and everything is working right, but we still have this here at the bottom that it's not leaving the right space. So let's increase this margin bottom. Instead of passing these stars here, actually I can pass it instead on top on the parent view. Inside the parent view, I'm going to give it a 30, and this one say 20. Alright, and now let's scroll at the bottom. We still don't have the many spaces we want, so we must also pass a margin from the styles of the flat list. I'm going to say margin bottom, give it 10. Now this should solve the problem. Let me just going to close and re-render this. Okay, so I think having still not happy completely with what's happening. Let's scroll again up here. Margin bottom. Let's first of all give a flex of 1 to this, because that is the main thing. Flex 1, so we can use the whole space as it is available to us. Awesome. Now this is sorted. This is exactly what I wanted, and yeah, everything is working as we wish. And right now, if you click on the pictures, it's not gonna take you anywhere because you haven't built the search result screen. Okay, in this case, if for example I click here, it takes me to the search results screen. But in our case, you don't have the search result yet screen built. So if I click, sorry, this is not the app, our app here it is. If I click, there's nothing happening because we haven't built the search results screen yet. And the search results screen is really easy to build. It just card, and this will be very quick. So in the next video, we will begin building this screen as well as this one. And I think we're getting there, and after that we'll begin building the card and so forth. So we're really getting close to the end of this project, and we're gonna make it very soon. Otherwise, I'm going to end this video here. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to see you in the coming videos. And until then, keep safe and take care. Bye bye.